Feels a bit of a bank holiday weekend, doesn't it? I got my shorts on. Hey. There would have been a day. If you were at church in a day when if I'd tried to preach in shorts, someone would have thrown me out the door. Can you lift your hand? Oh, there's a few. Okay, if you're still in a day when you would want to throw me out the door because I'm in a pair of shorts, wow. Jonathan, you've got shorts on yourself. You hypocrite. You hypocrite. Get that old plank out your own eye, mate, before you find a speck in mine. Okay, anyway. Okay. Well done to anyone that's just got their GCSE results this week. Is there any of you here? A-levels in the last few weeks and GCSE results. I heard a few, some of Finn, my son's mates. Well done, you lot, for doing well in your exams. Today's an interesting... why don't you just say well done to them? Come on, they did well. They studied hard. We're going to look at a character in the Bible today called Joseph. If you want to kind of meet a character whose life doesn't quite pan out the way maybe he expected it to, or life changes left and right again, continuously changing, if you got GCSE results or A-level results you didn't expect, or you feel like, oh gosh, that wasn't quite what I was hoping for, this is quite a relevant talk for you today. Joseph ends up in places and situations when he doesn't really know how he got there. He's not quite sure of why God's placed him there, but he's confident in who his God is and the promises that's been made in his life. And so he holds on to the promises of God. That's the encouragement to us today. So even if you're a few years beyond your GCSE results, if you feel like, oh, how did life get me here? I didn't quite expect that curveball this week. The life of Joseph is a great lesson to learn of someone who holds on to the promises of God, puts his faith and confidence in the word of God and the dreams that he's had, and says, even if they're not fulfilled in my lifetime, we're going to learn this about him, I will see them in the life to come. It's an amazing way to live. And Joseph's a pretty incredible character to learn from. So we've been in this book of Hebrews 11. It's listed out this whole list of heroes of faith. And the reason we kind of done it is because we're very aware that a bunch of people in our church have become Christians in the last couple of years. You maybe didn't go to Sunday school. So you sometimes might hear a name like Abraham, or you might hear a name like Sarah or Joseph today, and you might think, I don't know, who is this Joseph? And so we want to talk about these heroes of faith. We want to learn from their lives, as the writer of Hebrews does, to say we are called to a living hope ourselves, to continue in faith in the same God, Yahweh, that they placed their hope and trust in before. So we're going to learn from each of those. In Hebrews 11, verse 22, we get a one-liner about this guy, Joseph. By faith, it's an important ongoing theme throughout this, the element of faith. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. So he spoke about the past. He gave instructions concerning the burial of his bones. He talked about the future. So when we think about the life of Joseph today, we're going to think about one who is very good at looking back. The old nostalgia fest. Who loves a nostalgia fest? It's dangerous. The past is in the past. We live in the present and we're walking towards the future. But there are times to look back. We also have to look forward. What do our futures look like? Who's worried about their futures? There's a few of you, come on. We know you're future-orientated people. We look and we think, oh gosh, I'm not quite sure what the future holds. Because we look back in nostalgia. Sometimes we look forward, maybe in hope or in fear. But Joseph's encouragement is to continuously look up. Look up to who his God is. So when he looks back, he's saying, who was the God of Israel that got us out of Egypt? When he looks forward, he said, who is the God of Israel that's going to lead us into a promised land? He does both these things from a perspective of looking up and not looking down. So easy to look down and get caught by the circumstance that's about that far in front of our nose. But when we look up, my chiropractor's in the room, Theo, aren't you? He might not be in the moment, he might be looking after his daughter. He always reminds me, good posture, look up. Look towards the horizon. Don't look at your feet as you're trudging along on the street, developing a worse and worse posture into your back. Look up. Look up. And that's the encouragement of Joseph to give for us today. Some of us will know about the life of Joseph because there's a wonderful musical. I'm not a big musical fan, but I do remember seeing Jason Donovan as a 9-year-old, I think. And is that Jason Donovan? Is it? Huh? Right. The internet has lied to me then, because I just said, give me Jason Donovan as Joseph. The one on the left clearly isn't, but the one on the right is. Yeah? Okay. I don't actually care. I just thought I'd be polite and talk, but Jason, yeah, it doesn't look like that anymore. But yeah, anyway, so that's often what we think about with Joseph. So let's. I'm not going to sing it all, but way, way back many centuries ago. No, we're not going to do it. Joseph was his dad's favorite. He was the favorite kid. So if you're a brother or sister of the favorite kid, you know this situation. He loved a good coat. You know, I like bright colour trainers. He loved a bright coat. He enjoyed a good coat. His brothers weren't particularly fans of him or his coat. They didn't like it very much. And so naturally, in, I guess, sort of ancient Israel, the best way to deal with a bit of sibling rivalry is to fake your brother's death, pretend he's been killed, go back to your dad and tell him he's been killed by giving him the coat that he loved, dipped in blood, and then selling him off into slavery into Egypt. Great way of dealing with family problems. Sibling rivalry. Again, if I've got 2 brothers, we haven't gone as far as that yet, but always time. Although I'm the favourite, so, you know, I'd be the one. Okay. No reaction there. So he ends up in Egypt. He becomes a slave. He gets jailed. And that's not good English, is it? He gets put in jail. He gets jailed. He gets put in jail, basically for looking too good. Now, Wendy's not... Oh, she is. Oh, no, you're here. I thought you were doing kids' work. Wendy is adamant that Joseph is the best-looking person in the Bible. I don't know if you've ever thought... She said to me the other day, she was doing a Bible study, she said, I think Joseph was really good-looking. Okay. Good to know. But anyway... maybe the evidence for that is that he was so good looking that he got sent to jail. Potiphar's wife, who was the person he was working for in slavery, would admit that she thought he was quite good looking, made accusations against him. And so, go, Joseph, you know that part, you know, he's got to go, and then he ends up in his jail cell. And while he's in jail, he has to interpret dreams for a cupbearer and for a baker. And then he gets promoted out of jail, long story going on, but he gets called out of jail. He eventually gets to go to Pharaoh, interprets his dreams, and he then becomes Pharaoh's right-hand man. It's kind of a crazy story. You know, someone who's sibling rivalry, someone's favorite, thrown in jail, number of times feels like he's been wronged by people. And again, this could be a thing for us. You might feel like your life is defined by the way that other people have wronged you. Joseph's life was a bit like that. But also there were times Joseph is not, and this is the joy of all of these heroes of faith, there is only one perfect Savior, Jesus Christ. All of these are imitators of Christ like you and me. So they're all imperfect human beings with flaws. And so not only was Joseph wronged by people, but he wronged those around him at times as well. He had a desire to please God, and he had the promises of God in his life, but he still made mistakes. And so we see that. We see the faithfulness of God throughout these situations. You fast forward, now that he's been promoted to being Pharaoh's right-hand man, Joseph then saves Egypt from famine. Well done, Joseph. He reunites with his hungry brothers who come down to Egypt to receive grain, and he exercises forgiveness at that moment. It's this lovely arc of a story. That's why it's a good musical. That's why we talk about it in kids' work. It's a great story. It's an incredible story. If you haven't read it, read it through. But the moral of the story, this is what we really want to hear today, is always rock a cool coat, be nice to your weird dream-having siblings, and you never know when you're going to get control of the grain. Do we think? No. Okay, that's not the point. Andrew Lloyd Webber's lied to us. It's not true. What's the point of the story? That faith endures till the end. Faith keeps going because faith looks back at the faithfulness of God and it looks forwards to all that God is yet to do. About 20 odd years ago, I was really gutted I didn't do it. So there's a wonderful man in this church called Jospeh. He's involved in Kingsway Music, and he used to be involved, and actually Noza has a real connection with this because her home was based around the Amazon basin in Brazil. And he had a number of others. Would you guys have gone? Would you have gone out to Brazil? Ray of Hope stuff? Maybe, okay. Maybe some people in the room did. But John invited me out one time to go and visit. And I put a picture of Rio de Janeiro because we would have flown into there and then traveled into the Amazon, and we would have gone around and see this project of building schools along the Amazon basin for kids that were struggling, getting in and out of boats early morning and drowning as a result. So a bunch of Christian musicians and artists and people involved in the Christian music industry at that time created this charity called Ray of Hope and then built these schools down the Amazon, and he invited me to come. And because I was young, I kind of thought, I'll do it one day, and said, I can't now, I'll do it one day. And John died, and I never got to go. And I have this picture still in our hallway of Rio de Janeiro, because I'd love to go to Brazil one day. I sort of feel that longing for it. And I don't know if you've ever had that. Have you got like a bag packed for a place that you long to go to, and you think, I know I'll go there one day, I just don't know when that day will be. Does that relate to any, is it just me? Does that relate to us a little bit? There's little things that are like hopes planted, seeds of hope in our life. And we're longing for something, we don't quite know when the timing's going to come. And it's frustrating because we think we're more in control of our time than we really are. I thought I had more time than I really had with John, and I didn't. And so I didn't say yes, and I wish I had. But I believe actually something, I'm like, God, I still want to one day we'll go to Rio. We'll go and see it. We'll go and be we'll go and experience Brazil and be amongst others. Joseph had these longings and dreams in his heart. Sometimes he didn't always sort of process them very well to the people around him. You might say Joseph was a little bit arrogant. I don't know. That was probably his trait a little bit. The favourite brother with the nice flashy coat that had the dreams and the promises of an important future led to a little bit of self-confidence that we might call arrogance. But in that, there was this thing that he never let go of the promises of God. There was something of a certainty of what God had called him to and what God was going to do through his life. And it's that faith that endures. When you have those promises of God, despite the trials of life, despite the accusations made against you, despite being thrown into slavery, despite being accused of things that he never did, despite being betrayed by people that he was in a prison cell with, despite all of those situations, and you might relate to some of them, he had a confidence in God that endured till the end. A confidence in the promises of God. And that hope will always point forwards. It'll always cause you to walk with your head up because you're saying, God, I see you and I believe in you. Some people want to bang your head down, don't they? The world would love to bang your head down. Why is your confidence in God? Get your head down. Why are you smiling? Stop smiling. I can't help but smile sometimes because the joy of the Lord is my strength. Because I believe in him and his promises. My future is secure because his word is final. I can trust in the word of God. See, Joseph's final words in Genesis, they're not about revenge or regrets. I love it. He's not saying, I'm going to get my own back on the pesky brothers that beat me up. He's not talking about the regrets of what he did or didn't do. They're about hope in God's promises. He believed that even in a foreign land, even after great suffering, God would be faithful to his words. What are his final words? His instructions concerning my bones when you get into the land. This is what I want you to do with me. When I'm just left as a bag of bones, there's no flesh even left there, there's no life there anymore. I've been taken to be with the Lord forever, but at that point, do this with my bones. Bring him into the land. Bury him in the land that God has promised to me and to my family and to our people. I love that part of it. I love his confidence, and I love that our church is full of men and women like that. Our church is full of people who die in absolute confidence of the promises of God. Go to their funerals. Go and listen to the way that they die. Go and listen to their confidence in God. Because you may be a long way out from your funeral one day, but you can learn much from those who die in faith and confidence in who their God is and all that God has done. You see, faith endures, and Joseph's life was marked by trials, but he was held by hope. Trials throughout his life. He did not have an easy life. Many circumstances that he wouldn't have asked for or wished for, and yet he was held by a hope. And where did that hope begin? He looked back. He looked back at what God had done, because God had remained faithful. Faithful to his father, faithful to his grandfather, faithful to the generations around him. He'd seen the faithfulness of God through the characters that we've heard about, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He'd seen the faithfulness. He'd known what God had done. He believed that God was going to bring them out. There's the pigeon. Did it just move? It walked across the bread. Like, don't use communion from that side of the room. I was really excited about the pigeon this morning. Monica wanted to get rid of it. I quite like it. I think we should keep a pigeon in church. Is it coming? No, come here. Come here. No. Okay, come on, let's chase it off. Go. Get lost. Go. Okay, you're on duty on this corner. Sorry, I haven't met you before, but you're in charge of the bread, okay? Okay. Where were we? Okay. Joseph remained faithful. He didn't get bitter. He didn't get hardened by life. And this is a word that I love. So throughout Joseph's story, in Genesis 37 all the way through to 50, you keep hearing these words, the Lord was with Joseph. So let me give you a few examples of this. Explicitly, the Lord was with Joseph. It says it in Genesis 39 verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered. Or 39 verse 3, his master saw that the Lord was with him. Or 39 verse 21, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness. Genesis 39 verse 23, the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success. Joseph knew something about being with the Lord and the Lord being with him. He had a deep union with God. So good. Not only do I have those direct, explicit references, but also throughout the story, Genesis 41 verse 16, Joseph says, I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer. His confidence is in God. God's going to come through. Genesis 41, verse 38. Pharaoh says, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? People around him start to notice, this guy Joseph is one with God. God's with him. Genesis 45, verses 5 to 8. Joseph tells his brother that God sent him ahead to preserve their life. That's maybe why they didn't like him very much. Oh yeah, God sent you, did he? No, he did. He's confident in that. Clear recognition that God had directed his path. Genesis 50 verse 20. Joseph says, what you meant for evil, God's meant it for good. His confidence was in his God. Increase your confidence in God today. Your confidence does not lie in the things of this world. Everything shakes. Everything shakes. Our God is immovable. You can believe in him. He's the rock of our salvation. He's the rock that's bigger than you. Plant your feet and build your life on the rock, not on the sand. Joseph teaches us that, his confidence in who God is. And he talks about it often, and he reminded himself often of who his God was. He never let his present pain cancel out his future hope. Didn't matter the circumstance he was in. He was like, I know the pain I'm in. I'm not going to deny that I'm in a prison cell. But I've got a hope of a glorious future. I'm not going to deny that my brothers have just beat me up, ripped my coat, dipped it in blood, and thrown me in a pit. But I believe God's got a plan for my life. There's something beautiful in his confidence in who God is and what God has done. And as a result, that so helps us from growing weary and growing bitter. The world is full of weary and bitter people. The people of God are not weary or bitter because we're full of confidence in who our God is. We forgive quickly. That's why we're going to end up at the table. We receive forgiveness of sins and we forgive those around us. Joseph models that. We don't become bitter and we don't become weary. Ooh. It's having fun. Let's leave it. But we don't become weary because our confidence is in God and he renews our strength. Let me just ask you this little question. Do you still trust that God's promises hold secure, even in a pit, even in a prison, or even in a place of waiting? It's like chaos this morning, isn't it? It's like police cars, pigeons. I don't know what's going to happen next. It's exciting, isn't it? It's like, whoa, what's going to go on? Monica, guard the doors. I'm really distracted, but I'm enjoying preaching. I'm going to keep going. Romans 5 verses 3-5 teaches me this. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope, and a hope that does not disappoint. It's the promises of God. Suffering, the hardships of life, they can produce in us perseverance. Keep going, Christian. Don't give up. And as you persevere, your character will grow. How are you going to grow in character unless you have to first persevere? You persevere. And then as your character grows, you have an increased confidence in a hope. Oh, goodness me. Something has happened. No, go on. Go on. Jenny. Wow. Okay. Neil, can I just ask, on the live stream, were you filming any of that? No, okay. So, for anyone watching the live stream, no pigeons were hurt during the recording of this morning. I know it's not on the live stream, but someone will watch this. Maybe someone will watch this preach. They may never watch this preach. But if we put it out there, someone's like, what was going on? There's a pigeon. Jenny caught the pigeon. Nothing died. We looked after it. RSPCA don't need to be informed. And it was taken out the door. And we're safe. Pray, yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay. I knew it was my week this week. Bank holiday weekends. Okay. What else does he do then? He looks back and then he looks forward. Joseph believed not only in his own exodus that he was going through. An exodus is like an ongoing word. It's an ongoing word that you get throughout the Bible. It's this going to a new place, being taken by God, an exodus being brought out of somewhere. Joseph not only believed that there was an exodus taking place of his people being brought to Egypt to receive grain, but he also believed in this future exodus that would take place. Not only would they wouldn't just stay in Egypt forever, but one day God would lead them out of Egypt into this promised land. That's why he gave instructions for his bones. He didn't believe he would stay in Egypt forever, and his people would not stay there forever. See, Joseph looks ahead. He says, God will come to your aid and will bring you out of this land. Genesis 50, verses 24-25. God will come to your aid and bring you up out of this land. Even in his death and his burial instructions, he says, take my bones with you. Don't forget me. Don't just leave me in the past. I want to put my hope and my confidence into the land that has been promised to us. Joseph dies in Egypt, but he places his trust in a promised land that is bigger than his lifespan. Is your confidence in a land that is bigger than your own life? That's the call of a Christian. You're called to something beyond that you see today. It's the point of following Jesus. It's into a new heavens and a new earth, something that goes beyond the grave. That's why you can smile through the hardships of life, because your life goes beyond the trials and hardships. Your perseverance leads to life and life everlasting. Persevere. Keep your hope and confidence in God who makes the promises. And this isn't just nostalgia for the past. This is a prophetic hope for the future. It's what I love about people who they see what God's done there, but they don't just look backwards saying, can't we go back? They say, see what God's done here. That's what he's going to do into the future. Can't you see this is the way that God works? This is what God does. He's going to do it again because we believe in him. And it lifts my eyes again to a prophetic hope of what God's about in our lives, corporately and personally. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What legacy of faith are you leaving? What are your bones going to look like at the end of your life? What is your legacy of faith? Are you preparing the next generation to trust in the promises of God that you never see fulfilled? Ooh, it's interesting, isn't it? I want to fulfill my promises. God, fulfill your promises. You fulfill your promises from this generation to the next. And we pass it on with confidence. We are all recipients of faith. Recipients of the promises of God from the generation before. And we receive it, and we water it, and we plant it. We water it through prayer, through our serving, through our time. We give our all to God. And as we water and we tend for these seeds of faith, we see them grow into future generations to produce fruit for others. Not just fruit for me, but fruit for others. That's the blessing of the gospel. The gospel isn't just that, hey, don't I do well out of this? No, how is God glorified and how are others blessed as a result of what God's doing in my life? It's not just that I would do well. See, our faith lives in hope that we're not home yet, so we look up. We look back, we look forward, and we look up. Because Joseph understood that Egypt wasn't his forever home, no matter how good life got there. Now, eventually they say, we had cucumbers in Egypt, I quite liked it, can't we go back there? It's just the problems with nostalgia. Oh yeah, isn't it so nice, these little niceties? If we're worried about the things we're losing in this life, you forgot what you've got in life everlasting in God. You're building up a treasure in heaven that cannot perish. Your pension in heaven is never going to diminish. No one's getting their hands on your pension in glory. Stop worrying about it. Okay, I don't mean don't worry about it now. But I'm just like, stop worrying about it so much that you've lost sight of the future hope in which we believe in. We're not of this world. We're His. We belong to Him for eternity. Our trust is in God and in Him alone. So much of this life can perish and fade. Leave the bread out on the side, it will go moldy. Leave your face in the sun, it will go wrinkly. It will happen. You can't preserve the things of this life, but you can lay up treasure in heaven. Our hope in Him. See, Joseph understood that. Hebrews 11, verses 13 to 16. I love this bit. It's in a sort of few passages around what we haven't quite read this morning, but it said, they admitted, these are these heroes of faith, they admitted they were foreigners and strangers on earth. They were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. What does this live in hope means? It means that we don't settle for comfort over what God has called us to. Comfort is not the intended purpose of the Christian. It's the call of God on our life because we keep trusting in what's ahead even when it's not visible today. That's what faith is. A couple more challenges before we close in communion. Are we tempted to live like this world is our home? Or are we living like you're on your way to a somewhere better? That's how I want to live. I'm on my way to a somewhere better. This is not my forever home. I love the home that God's given me and placed me in. I love the people of God, but this is just a foretaste of the future of what is yet to come. I've got to keep remembering that. That's why the church the church family is so important. It's why when people come in, often non-believers, they say, why do I cry when I spend time amongst you? Why do I feel love? Because this is a foretaste of your forever home. And if we do this well, this speaks to a world around us of what our forever home will be like. It's why the church, the way we treat each other is so important. It's why it's so important the way we approach the table with one another. We approach the table as those who forgive quickly, who love, who care, who extend mercy, who speak truth into each other's lives. We don't just ignore sin in our lives, we talk about it because we love the gospel, we love the Lord, and we love one another. And as we do that, we give this little taste. Oh man, what was that food from? You know, when you take home, take away. And you're like, oh, where was that from? Yeah, can I get a taste of that? Yeah, you can. Taste this for you as well. What you're tasting here is just a foretaste of a future you can have with God. It's what we're offering to the world around us. Don't fit into the world's consumer-orientated, individualistic, sex and image-obsessed ways. That is the ways of the world. The world is orientated towards the consumer. It's orientated towards the individual. And it's oriented towards image and sex. That's the way the world structures itself. We are not of this world. We are created differently. We'll stand out distinct and different. And I tell you what, when those things fail in the world looks to a place where it doesn't fail, where that hope is secure, and where that hope bears fruit. That's why the church is important. That's why we're going to keep believing in the community of believers with one another, in putting others first before ourselves. It's submitting to our own sexual desires to God's, and not believing that image is all that counts, but God cares about the heart of things. He wants to know what's real that's in there, not just the front that's presented. See, what Joseph's bones tell us about hope, they tell us that Joseph's dying words were about a journey that was yet to come. His bones were not going to get up and walk alongside his future generations. He needed them to take him with him. He didn't have, it wasn't like old Pinocchio, it just picks up on the string and whoop, here's the bones of Joseph just walking with us. No. He was placed into this Ark of Covenant, and he was taken into a future land because his bones became a symbol of God's faithfulness and a reminder of a hope that endures. So what happens in Exodus 13 verse 19, when Israel left Egypt, Moses carries Joseph's bones with him. I love that little picture. It's like Moses just saying, yeah, okay, Joseph, we remember you. We remember the faithfulness of God to you and your generation. The bones are coming with us. And when they get into the land, and when they have to fight for the land in the story of Joshua, they bury his bones in the promised land. And in that moment, his hope is fulfilled, even in generations later than he ever lived. It's beautiful. God's word's incredible like that. So we're just going to ask a couple of things, practical bits. And then I'm going to read, and then we're going to take communion together. How can you live a life that points forward? That'd be a massive question I would ask. What can we be doing that shows that our hope is one that is in the future? It shapes today, but it's looking up towards the future promises. Here's a few things I thought about this week. But you just while you're sitting here, you might think about some ways that you might live a life that points toward the future. This teaching series is meant to be discipleship orientated. It's meant to be teaching us the things of God, but giving us some practical discipleship ways. I don't want people to just have had phases of meeting God in 2025 and saying, that was a fun phase for a couple of years. And now 30 years later, I remember when I popped into King's Church for a few weeks. Yeah, I got baptized. It was great. No, I want to build lifelong disciples of Jesus that trust and follow him, that grow in faith to the end of their lives. So sometimes we do that practically. Begin a new habit that reflects our enduring faith. Write a journal. Get a scripture reading plan together. Grow in a spiritual gift. Ask God for spiritual gifts and grow in them. Encourage one another to grow in them. Speak hope into someone else's story. I love that one. Find a way to mentor or encourage or bless someone else with God's promises to you. I love hearing people's stories. People love to hear your stories. We're a story-built people. Share your story of faith this week. Encourage people in it. Write a letter of hope that your children or others could read in the future. I like that idea. Write something down. It's what God's saying to me. And save it and pass it on to read back in 10, 15, 20 years' time. You see, Joseph lived and died clinging to a living hope. So let's be people whose lives point forward to. It's what communion is actually all about. It's a bit strange here because the bird's gone, isn't it? So I can remove the, I feel like, so now there's probably, anyway, let's roll that in a bowl. We use just bread and wine. We use a bit of pita bread. Some churches you might go to, they might have one large communal cup. We don't do that very often now just because of, diseases. But we come to the table together. Now, one thing that's and we do this because we're very aware that for some people, alcohol has been a real difficult part of their life. So we don't use alcoholic wine on a Sunday morning. We just use grape juice that's on there. But I probably tried to explain to my kids before they were old enough really to understand. But I remember saying, sometimes you might think, do we use red juice because it looks like blood? Sort of, but that's not really the reason. Jesus didn't use wine because it looks like blood. It's because it was a living drink. There's something about this fermenting wine, grape juice, that speaks about the fact that this juice is alive. It's not a dead juice, and this is kind of the issue with that. Sugar that will just sit there dead. It probably won't go moldy forever. But wine goes off, and it's alive, and it ferments, and it changes over years. If you've got a nice bottle of wine, but we don't use real wine, but there's something, what we're saying is that when we come to the table, we receive something that is living today. This isn't a dead thing. It's not just a nostalgia of what Christ did in the past, although we are hugely grateful of what Christ has done in the past. The breaking of his body for the forgiveness of sins. He gave himself for us. So we come to receive, and as we eat, we partake in his death. But not only that, we partake in his life everlasting. So when we drink from the cup, it's not just, it looks a bit like blood. It's that I'm drinking a living drink today, something that gives me life. It points towards a future hope, and a hope that is secure because the one who makes it is true. I am confident in the promises of God because they're the promises of God and not the promises of Andy Thorpe. No. I trust Andy Thorpe's promises. But he's a man. He can break his promise. God is secure, and I believe in his promises. So when we drink and when we eat together today, we receive and experience forgiveness of sins, and we celebrate a future hope of the life that is yet to come. It's beautiful. You see, there are so much of Joseph's story and these heroes of faith that are like types of Jesus. It's kind of when you read all these characters, you think, they're a bit like Jesus in that way. They're a bit like Jesus in that way. Because the point is, they're all little foreshadows, little tasters of what our Christ is going to truly be like, the Messiah. We get this little hint of the future throughout their stories. And Joseph is so connected with the life of Jesus. There's so many ways you think, Joseph's a bit like Jesus in that. The beloved son sent by his father, Joseph. The beloved son sent by his father, Jesus Christ. The one that was rejected by his own brothers, Joseph. The one that was rejected by all around him, Jesus Christ. The one that was falsely accused and suffered unjustly. Do you see these little types, these little shadows that are going across? The one that was ultimately exalted after his humiliation. It's not only Joseph, it's Jesus Christ. Through his public humiliation on the cross, he is exalted to the name that is above every name, so that one day every tongue will confess and every knee will bow, because Jesus Christ is Lord. And one where Joseph saved his family, Jesus saves the whole of humanity. It's a beautiful little part, again, where we see the story of Joseph and we're drawn towards the story of Jesus. And in this moment now, as we come and take communion with each other, let's remember the one who died in our place, like the baker in the prison cell. Again, this is just another little beautiful moment. The baker that told Joseph his dream, and the cupbearer that gave him access to the king. It's wonderful. The story of Joseph teaches us so much about what our God is like, and our God is still faithful and true today. So why don't we stand to our feet? Why don't we head to the table, peel off the silver foil, chase any pigeons out of the room, grab some bread and wine, let's come back together in the middle, and then we're going to take communion together and we're going to sing a final song.